Welcome back to Wizard Supercoach, and a very Merry Christmas to my tens of viewers. I was going to wait until after New Year's to do the first of these research videos, but, I felt like talking about Supercoach, so damn it, I'm going to do it. What's a few days? Now, if you haven't watched this channel before, I'm, I guess, a little bit different to a lot of the other Supercoach YouTubers out there, which, I love them myself, but yeah, a little bit different. I do more of research type stuff, and my next, I'd say at least 5 videos are going to be that kind of thing. So I've got a few planned out, and I did these kind of videos last pre-season, and I felt like it helped me, and I hope it helped other people as well. Judging by the comments, it probably did. So yeah, I was enthused to do it again. So yeah, the reason I like to do it as well is because you can look at other sites and other people's videos, and of course I love doing that myself, but doing it this way, it forces me to look where I normally wouldn't look, and in the end you find some pretty interesting stuff. So for example, like Tom Cole here, I didn't expect for him to pop up on this sheet, but he did, and I'll explain it when I get to him about like why he's there. But yeah, they're the strange little anomalies that you find, and who knows, things like that could be the difference in winning and losing. But I'm not advocating with picking Tom Cole, by the way, but yeah, just an example. So yeah, for those who haven't watched this channel before, these are pretty straightforward, these videos. So this one is just a pre-buy average versus a post-buy, and the differential here, we're looking for obviously if there's been a big decline or a spike, and then it kind of shows us where to look. We can find out what caused it, and if that's likely to continue or stop in 2026. I guess that's kind of up to you, what you want to do with the information, if you think it's going to continue, but I'll just talk through that kind of stuff, and you can make up your own mind, I guess. And all this data as well, there's no sub or injury games in here, so, keep it pretty pure, I guess you'd say. So yeah, we're starting with defenders in this video, as is tradition. So McKercher, I feel like we don't really need to talk about. We all know what happened there. Simple as this, right? After the bye, he moved to half back, and we saw how he can score there in that seagull role. So yeah, that one's straightforward. Tom Cole, so post bye, he shot up 28 points on average. Now, when I looked into this, the reason why it seemed is because as soon as McGovern retired is when Cole started actually scoring well. But again, I'm not advocating to pick him because, if you look at what he's priced at, even if he did average 94 for the season, he's not a keeper, and he's not going to make you enough money to justify the pick. But I just thought it was interesting, so I put him in here. The other thing is, I guess, is West Coast, they're going to replace McGovern for the long term. So yeah, I can't see this continuing at all. Impey was the other interesting one that I didn't really expect to see. So he's had nearly a 28 point average spike here, and it was pretty clear why this happened. So before Weddle got injured and went out of the team, Impey was averaging 74. Then once Weddle was out, Impey shot up to 103 average in that time. And then as soon as Weddle came back in the team, Impey averaged 68 for the rest of the year. So it's pretty obvious that without Weddle, Impey is actually a pretty good pick. Problem is Weddle going to keep getting injured? And I guess on the plus side, if you were to gamble, there is talk that Weddle could be going into the midfield this year. So does that then make it, if Weddle's not back there, does that make it so that Impey is now that distributor? I guess there's Amon as well, but the numbers are here. Like, he was doing over 100, so I guess it just depends what that split would be like as well for Weddle. So is he going to be playing off the halfback when he's not in the midfield? Because he's obviously not going to go 100% midfield time. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm not saying I wouldn't be picking Impey myself, but yeah, it's another interesting one. And there's, I think, the merit in doing this is right there. So Wilmot, so I feel like all the talk has been about Jasper Fletcher, and Wilmot's kind of the forgotten man here, when he's the one, in my eyes, that he's had the bigger uptick. We can see it here in the numbers. Obviously a little bit more experienced, but yeah, he's kind of flying under the radar because of of Fletcher. So could this possibly be because Zorko obviously he dropped off in the second half of the year by about 14 points on average. Is that why Wilmot and Fletcher picked up? Obviously Fletcher didn't pick up as much as Wilmot, but I would say it probably is. And yeah, probably make more sense when I talk about Zorko later. So we can talk about the three of them together. Just skip Cowan, I guess. Like, I don't really know much about Cowan, to be honest. If anyone can tell me in the comments there why you think this came about, but again, it's like, even if he averages 83 or whatever, at his price, it's not worth it as a pick. So, Nas, we don't really need to talk about. That's obvious. He moved into the midfield and went absolutely crazy. So Redman, he's had this nice spike here. The best I could come up with when I was looking at his numbers and stuff is post-buy, he had about a 30% rise in kick-ins, and obviously Essendon really got worse as the season went on, so ball was down in defence more. And there's no numbers to back that up, that's just from my eye test, but the eye test and numbers is usually a pretty good indicator of what's really going on. But the interesting thing here is that Redman was still taking the majority of kick-ins with Ridley in the team, so I don't know, he's definitely one to watch, I think. I don't think Essendon are probably going to be quite as bad as people think either, but even still, like, even if there is less ball down there, he seems to be the one that they want distributing it. And, if McGrath ends up in the midfield, which could happen, there's probably going to be even more ball for him. So, yeah, one to watch for sure. Is a little bit injury prone though. So Himmelberg, he also had that same spike of 18.1 on average. This one was a little harder to work out what actually was going on. So he averaged more marks post-buy, so about 10 marks a game and 6 pre-buy. So I can't really remember what the Giants were doing at that time, but let me know. Were they playing like a more possessive game style out of the back half? Because that's kind of what that would suggest, I think. I think from looking at it, Whitfield also had a rise in marks, but Ash might have dropped off a little bit. I can't remember, but yeah, let me know on that one. Himmelberg's always been kind of that tease. He can't seem to string a whole season together though, of like, primo scoring. He's definitely, one of those teasers. And then McGrath, who I mentioned earlier, so he's actually in my team currently. So once he moved to the midfield, and that was in the final 5 games of the year, he averaged 110. So if he's going to stay there, and as I said in my team review, he's purely there as a watch. So if it looks like he is going to stay in the midfield, then I'll probably pick him. But if not, then he's gone, because as we can see here, when he's purely a defender, he's not scoring nearly enough. He's way off the radar. So yeah, just wait and see on that one. And, we got to remember it is December, so most players are a wait and see. Blakey's definitely a tempting one. So he had the big rise as well. Now, most of the Sydney players, once they started winning, they got a nice spike in their scoring. Once those injured players started coming back, and, it looks like Sydney will probably be a lot stronger this year. I'm banking on it. That's why Heaney is currently in my team, and probably, unless something crazy happens, I don't think he'll be leaving it at this rate. But Blakey seems to just be another one that he just started scoring better as Sydney started winning. So for people that haven't watched this channel before, there's another research video that I do, and it will be how players' averages in wins versus losses, and then you can kind of make an educated guess from there. If you think that a team is going to be better next year, like Sydney, and their players score better in wins, well then, there's probably value in those Sydney players. I think as well with Blakey, though, probably went on a tangent there, but he probably benefited from the decline in Matt Roberts and Bice as well. So they both kind of dropped off as the year went, and I think he was really that like number one distributor coming out of there. So yeah, I can't see either of those two taking that back off him. He's also, he scores in other ways as well, which is pretty good. It's good to have a mix. You don't want to be relying on one thing. So Salem's an interesting one. I cannot really work out why he started scoring better post bye. He's always kind of up and down anyway. Like, he's always had patches where he looks like a primo, a bit like Himmelberg, but he'll score like really good for 6 weeks and then he'll go missing for the next 6. He's that kind of player, but he is somewhat tempting because there's not going to be any Bowie to begin with, and McVee's gone. So I don't know, off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone else at Melbourne that really would be playing that distributor role, and he's pretty good at it, I think. He's a premiership player. Rivers maybe, but it looks like he's going into the midfield. So yeah, I don't know. Keep an eye on Salem because, he's pretty cheap and he could have one of those hot runs to start with. But yeah, I wouldn't be banking on him being a keeper or anything like that. So Farrell, it appears that he scored better because he played more defence in the second half of the year. He was kind of spending time on the wing and stuff in the first half, and as we know for Supercoach, that can be, pretty up and down, bit of a dead spot. It looks like Bergman's going to go into the midfield from what Josh Carr's saying, so spend a lot more time there. Does that mean that Farrell then becomes like the number one guy at half back? It looked like they were using Burgoyne more on the wing, and I can't really think, like, Houston's obviously gone now, so it could be Farrell's half back, like, could be his defence. I don't know, another one to keep an eye on. So it's too early with this stuff, It's probably why I was a little bit hesitant to make these videos in December, but yeah, I think it's fine. It can show us where to look, and probably it's even good because it gives us something to watch for. And yeah, speaking of Bergman, so he shot up 14.7 on average in the second half of the year. So that was pretty obviously because he had a rise in CBAs, and Carr's saying that he's going to stay there. So yeah, he's definitely worth watching. I've seen quite a few people pick him actually. Surprising amount, considering that, still Butters there. There's Drew, Wines. I think they were running Mead through there. You still got Jason Horn-Francis. It's pretty packed midfield. But I don't know. Maybe they'll start phasing out Wines finally. Something like that. Who's next? Laird. He ended up doing better than I thought he would do. So he looked a little bit washed up in the midfield. Like, not washed up, but he was past his best. But he absolutely killed it, especially in the second half of the year. So, he even, if you count the 2 finals, because I forgot to say, these videos don't count finals games. Because in my opinion, finals is basically a whole different sport. It's a whole different game. So I only do it based on their actual seasons for Supercoach. But yeah, Laird did 113.7 post-bye if you count the 2 finals, because he absolutely tore up. I guess because the ball was unfortunately down in Crow's defence a lot. But yeah, he played a bit higher up, and he averaged 28% CBAs in the finals as well. So, I guess Matthew Nicks was trying to phase him out of the midfield, and he did for pretty much the whole year. But when we were desperate in the finals and things weren't working, I guess, you got to go back with what had worked in the past. And I think Laird actually was a fairly decent midfielder as far as the in and under goes. But yeah, he's not got age on his side now. He's 32, but if he's still going to keep pumping out scores like this, he's definitely worth a watch. I can't see him losing his spot or anything like that, because he's really good at it. And the Crom, their back 6 looks really settled. It's a problem with the Crom, and I don't want to turn this into a Crom channel, but I do support them. The problem with them is that either end is really good, and the midfield is obviously the weakness. I'll move on from that, or I'll talk about Crom for too long. So Rivers, I'm going to skip Worrell, because I think this is just natural progression with him. So he'll probably take another small jump, but I don't expect him to average like 110 or something. Yeah, Rivers, he didn't have any CBAs until the final 2 rounds. It's kind of at odds with his 2024 data as well, where he had more CBA, like the more CBAs he had in 2024, the better he scored. But it's kind of the opposite in 2025. So that's an interesting one, especially if he is going to go into the midfield, like we think. Which data do we want to follow? Like, which is it, 2024 or 2025? Because they both paint an opposite picture. So I don't know, but I remember from last year, I think it was. Last pre-season. I think it was Finn Callaghan. Actually, it was the same thing where, similar thing where we had one set of data from one season suggesting that he scored better without CBAs, and there was another set of data from another season that suggested that he did. So it was kind of like, which one is the real one? But yeah, I think it was Finn Callaghan. I don't know, but there's definitely a player. So what I'm trying to say is with the Rivers one, I don't really know. I wouldn't put too much stock into that kind of thing because, it's what happened 2 years ago is definitely not as relevant as now. What I'm trying to say. Oh, actually, sorry. I think it was Perryman, and I actually remember saying in the video that Perryman was a trap based on that. So yeah, and I didn't follow my own advice because I got swayed by other YouTubers. So that's on me. That's my own fault. I'm not blaming other YouTubers at all. So he's Banks from Richmond. He's kind of flown under the radar. I didn't really notice him until it was too late. But his increase was because it appears that he moved from spending time on the wing to solely playing half back. So similar to Farrell. He also obviously does a lot better without Jaden Short in the team. So without Short, he averaged 93. A little bit of natural progression probably going to go on there because he's young, and expect there will be still a lot of ball in Richmond defence. He's definitely one to watch because my gut feel from looking at these numbers is there's breakout potential right there. And I know that's not like an unpopular opinion or anything. I'm not being the oracle here, but yeah, I can see it. So I agree with the others. Skip Sicily because he's kind of just dependent on if he's going to spend time forward or whatever. I think Hawthorn's moved on as well from him being like the main man back there. Like obviously he's still a key cog, but he's just that now. He's a cog in a really good defence. He's not like the whole defence. Archie Roberts, so he had a little increase here. That's probably just natural progression, I'd say. And the ball was in the defence a fair bit, and as I said with Redmond, like Essendon dropped off a fair bit. Rosie's another one. We know what happened there. He moved to defence, played the seagull role. He was scoring all right in the midfield though, so these aren't really too far apart. Fletcher, I'll skip. We'll talk about, as I said before, the Wilmot, Fletcher, Zorko thing later. Ridley, it's not a question of scoring for him or role or anything. It's just his body, and his body, unfortunately, is made of paper. Can just skip all these guys, really. You don't have to talk about them. There's not really anything here. Like, I wouldn't say these are statistically relevant or whatever you would say. These numbers are here. The differential, they're too low. Clark was a bit of an interesting drop-off. He was pretty consistent for the whole year, but I owned him, and that -5 in the average, that kind of hurt on the run home, especially when there was others like Nas that really presented themselves as ultra primos. But that's fine. So Sinclair, we'll start with him again, I guess, because -8, that's a fair drop, and we know Sinclair is obviously a really good pick. But the only thing that, from what I could see, there was not a real change in anything he was doing. This average was just affected, like the post-buy average was affected by, he had 2 floor games, like absolute floor games for him, post-buy. And it was because he spent, for some reason, a lot more time in defence. He didn't get up the ground at all. He was almost playing like a back pocket, which is odd for him. So that's just dragged his average down. So if you're thinking of picking Sinclair, I wouldn't be scared of this at all. Yeah, it's just how it goes. I think the similar thing with Ash as well, when I looked into it. he had one terrible score in round 22, and that was when the Giants absolutely thrashed North, and he had low tog in that game as well, so that probably given him a bit of a rest because the game was won, and probably just didn't have much to do because, judging by the score, the ball wouldn't have spent too much time in North's half. So, yeah, that kind of dragged his average down. Probably not enough to drag the whole, 9-point average down, but yeah, I think that's a big reason, especially when players are getting these higher averages in the pre-buy, 115, 110. It's pretty hard to maintain it. It's, even players like Max Gawn, you'll see when I do the ruck one, even he can't maintain these huge scores in second half of a year. There's just too many variables, It's very rare that you get players like, these ones here that kind of just go the whole way through with the same average. So, yeah, Zorko's obviously the one with the biggest negative differential. I don't know if he's actually declining. Now, hear me out. I know he's 138 years old or something, but he still did 111 across the 3 finals games. So, I think what's more likely is that Brisbane were just trying to lighten his load a bit in the second half of the year. I think they did similar with Lachie Neale, and he had a bit of a small drop off in his tog, and he, for some reason as well, he started handballing more than he was in the first half of the year. So his handball to kick ratio changed, and we all know that can affect a Supercoach score really easily. So I don't know. I don't think he's actually declining, and if he is, it's not at a great rate or not what this shows. I think it's more likely that he was managed, but the problem is I think that he's going to be managed a lot from now because he is, all seriousness, he is 37. So, that's twilight years it's past twilight years for most players. It's amazing he's still going, but I think that is going to be the way, and it's smart. They're just going to use him when they need him. And so if for that reason, whether it is that management or it is actually decline, I don't think you can pick him. He has a habit of, when you write him off, he'll come out and average 140 in the first month, but I can't see it happening, especially not with the rise of Fletcher and Wilmot. So, yeah, I'll talk about them now as well. So, I don't really need to. I think you can put it all together yourself. Zorko is being used less, and obviously someone's got to take those points in that ball, so it's those two. But as I said before, I think it's Wilmot over Fletcher. Fletcher seems pretty susceptible to some floor games, I think. Or he might not have the ceiling, I think, that the others have, but yeah, I can't remember when I looked at his numbers, to be honest, so I would be going Wilmot over Fletcher, though, to be honest, even though I think Fletcher's actually a better player. It doesn't matter in Supercoach, There's some absolute spuds that score really well in Supercoach because they have the right role, the Supercoach-friendly roles, and I'm not obviously saying that Wilmot or Fletcher are spuds. They're both far from it, but you know what I mean. So yeah, that's about it for this video. Try and keep it a bit shorter. My brain's not working properly. I've just had too much Christmas pudding and stuff. If anyone knows me, I'm a lot like Homer Simpson, but you got to enjoy it. Christmas is it's a good time of year. So yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed your Christmas, and I hope you enjoyed and somewhat got something out of this video. All we're looking for is talking points here. I think there's no hard and fast stuff. I'm not telling you what to do, but yeah, hopefully it's given you something, I don't know, to look at and go and investigate. So yeah, I'll be back, I don't know, when I get time, maybe tomorrow or the next day with another video. Might do the mids or the forwards with their pre and post buy, maybe even the rucks. I've got them ready to go. So yeah, I guess I'll see you in that one. Cheers.